Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan, and can you feel it? Can you feel Eagles football right around the corner? Because you should by now. I mean, we've got the 53-man cutdown. We've got the practice squad. We got Zach Ertz all of a sudden being in love with being a Philadelphia Eagle again. So we have a ton to talk about, Adam Caplan, on this episode. A lot of moves that were surprising on the cutdown day, and then maybe surprised by 24 hours later there weren't that many moves, and then some really zero, and then some really interesting player interviews that have since gone on. So we'll talk about that all, and of course we are going to have some really big announcements coming up ourselves probably by the next podcast. We'll be able to say even more, but some of the beans have already been spilled. Because if you're a listener to a certain station that we've been on, you've been hearing promos for it. So I guess we can just kind of already come forward and say that, barring anything last minute, Inside the Birds Radio Part 2 or Season 2 will be back on 97.5 The Fanatic. So that'll be pretty awesome.
Yeah. It should be the same 6 to 8 slot Monday nights, which is – we were always hoping for that when we started the show back in 2018, that we would be in not only local Philly radio, be on Monday nights, and we've got it. So we, like I said, barring any kind of snag, we have an agreement, so we're not expecting anything to fall through. That'll be Monday nights, and they live stream it, which is great. They archive it, which is awesome, and we're looking forward to going back. But that's a big announcement. But we got one that triples that. Which we just agreed to earlier this week. I'll give you a hint. It's going to be for our pregame show on Sundays.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say.
That's about all we can say right now, but we have a special pregame show lined up. We'll be doing it again Sundays. I think what we can say is it'll be 10 to noon for all the 1 and 4 o'clock games. Yeah. And then, of course, we'll do it in the evening for the few night games, but we really look forward to that. You're going to love the talent that we've assembled to do the show, and we look forward to a few more announcements also involving Inside the Birds and some other shows that we will trickle in as the days go by. So really happy about that. Make sure, if you haven't yet, I mean, we'll recap it a little bit today, but I mean in this episode, but we did do an emergency ITB TV on Tuesday at around 4:30ish, right after the final cuts were announced, and we gave you some meat and potatoes on some of the decisions that were involved on some of the releases and some of the keeps. So you're going to want to check that out. Yeah, it was an overall reaction. I
just always love it because it's sort of raw because we're trying to process Jordan Howard. What the hell? Like, what was that about? We'll get into that obviously in this show, but typically there are some surprises, and there certainly were. The 7 linebackers. We'll talk about that more. Boy, who had that in their 53 projection? I'll give anyone $50 if they could prove it to me that they had 7 linebackers. That was definitely surprising.
Yeah, me too. But I will shout out Bo Wolf from The Athletic. Apparently, he had Jordan Howard cut from his.
Did he? Wow, that's a great call by Rob.
Rob?
Yeah, Robert's his real name. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
yeah. I know Bo real well. Yeah, real well.
Bo's good.
Good job by him. Really? I didn't see it, so I don't look at Twitter much like other stuff. I just look for news. So, what did he give analysis why he thought he'd be cut? We just had a.
I don't know. I just know that some of the beats do this thing where a tally on who got the most of the 53 right, and Bo has got a special knack. I think he is the 3 years running champion on his 53. So he's got some kind of process, man. Good for him.
Who are the guys? It's Shield. I would think he works with Shield, but so he would be in it, right?
Yeah, Shield might do. I'm sure Zach puts one out. Berman. I'm sure Jeff McClain's involved. I'm sure Jimmy Kempski. I'm sure Jeff. Awesome. I said Jeff McClain already. The John McMullen gets in there. So.
Oh, you got to get Brandley Galton in there. You got to get.
I think Zach. Brandon and
yeah. Yeah, anyone who covers the Eagles. Yeah, they should Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy, and who else would be there?
I'm sure there's some other guys.
Oh, that new guy. The new guy
maybe.
Who's that?
I'm said maybe Ed Kratz was probably.
Ed Kratz, yeah. He. By the way, you could always tell when he asks a question in the press conference. He's got a very distinctive voice.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Venerable Ed Kratz. Yeah.
Good guy.
I think it's good guy. Good guy. You could tell. Yeah, Paul Damo. By the way, Paul Damowich on Wednesday wrote his final column. What a beautiful farewell column, folks. You got to read it. Really
Definitely
touching. Talks about his father. Do you know Damo's written? He's been a sports writer for 45 years.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you never want to tell a guy that you grew up reading him, but especially when you work alongside him. That's how I felt a lot lately because, Bob Glauber is a guy I grew up reading as well. I always loved reading his stuff, and he's in the Hall of Fame now. So you saw Bob?
Yeah, at the Jets practice. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, right.
In fact, I had to remind him. It just came out anyway. I just said it, but we got a good laugh out of it. I go so far back with him. He got his laptop stolen at the Super Bowl. It was in Houston. It was the Panthers Patriots.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad for him. I tried to help him find it, but yeah, he's terrible. And that example of it made me start hiding my laptop when I travel. I hide it everywhere I can figure out. So, you never know.
Smart man. Yeah. We could literally have done a stories pod like we did in August on all of like the just computer technological advancements that have happened since we got into the biz, and some of the writers who struggle with that and some of their stories, because there's a few guys on the Eagles beat who are kind of renowned for just not knowing how to use their equipment. I don't mean that as a euphemism. I'm literally talking about laptops and and recorders and things like that. And the great Jack McCaffrey, who from Delco, right? Yeah. I haven't seen him in a while. I haven't been in a locker room that he's been in a long time. But on the last time I saw him, which it's got to still be within the last 2 or 3 or 4 years in a locker room, he was still using the type of tape cassette audio recorder that has like the rewind button, the big fat rewind button and the play button and the fast forward button. He was still using that.
Remember Henry Clay? Great Henry Clay?
How can you forget Henry Clay?
The Keystone Recording Service, he would call it, right? Was that what it's called?
Absolutely. So we would have fun if we did a stories podcast like that. And then, of course, just my own, and I'm sure yours, your technology and things that you I must have left 1,000 power cords at I probably left a power cord, an Ethernet cord, or some kind of cable on every single NFL stadium that there is in America.
Well, wait a minute, but how did you? So, what would you do when you lost the cord? See, I did that on a couple trips. I would just go to Staples.
Yeah, that's what absolutely. Yeah. And then when I was at Comcast, I would just ask somebody who was in charge of that to order for the resources. When I went from Wilmington News Journal to Comcast Sportsnet, Adam, were kind of unbelievable. It was hard not to take advantage of. I mean, we had a person who was in Maria, God bless her. She was involved in travel. I used to have to book all of my own travel. Then for the first year, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I just forward her everything and she hooks it up for me. Okay. And then when you realize after a year, you're like, no, I'd rather do that myself, because then you get a flight on it where it's got a connection and you're a flight that you don't want. And then I'm like, it's not her fault, but I'd rather just do it myself.
See, at ESPN, we would book the travel. That would be approved. They tell you, you would stay at Bristol at the DoubleTree. Mm-hmm. So I became a Hilton guy. I'm like the only sports writer or whatever.
Yeah, if you don't have Marriott points, you're on an
exactly.
Island,
I'm weird. What happened? The funny thing is they didn't tell you anything when you first got there. So I would stay at the Residence Inn. There was one in Bristol. I don't know any better. They didn't tell me. So I'm like, and it's an older one. I'm like, why am I staying here? Mm-hmm. Probably the best DoubleTree I've ever been to is in Bristol. Their suites are amazing. Right. But not that you would be going over to in Bristol, Connecticut. It's not exactly scenic, but So we're it's Thursday now. This is so weird.
You realize you had all them coaches and former professional football players around you in Bristol, and not one dude could teach you how to do a push-up, huh?
No. It's Herm Edwards who called me Alan for 2 years. It's another story. I love Herm, but it's so funny. Of all people either spell my last name wrong, which I totally get. Yeah. Do you know I've had contracts done where they spell my last name and they had to redo it just because of the K? Instead of C.
Listen, you're talking to somebody. People tweet at me.
Geoff, yeah.
and write Geoff in the tweet when literally my Twitter handle shows you that my name is spelled Geoff. I mean, it is mind-boggling to me. I've gotten over it. I'm not complaining. I just find it hysterical that they're literally writing Geoff while my name is spelled correctly in the same space.
Well, one more you got to follow. Follow Mark Schlereth. He gets a lot of heat from his followers. They get on his bleep. Yeah. The stuff that he gives, particularly Jets, certain fan bases, he crushes. They get like, I don't know if he blocks anyone. They can get nasty with him. And he is so sarcastic. It's so funny. And his videos. We had Mark last year. We need to get him on this year. He was awesome. Jeez, that reminds me.
Yeah, I would say anybody that can overcome, 20-something surgeries can probably get through a little fan backlash.
He's media. So great. He's the greatest. And he's so funny and sarcastic to us. I love it. Oh, I love that guy. He's awesome. Good dude. But anyway, so it's Thursday.
Let's get into this. Go ahead.
How are you getting over this? I'm just out of sorts here, right?
Okay.
So on Wednesdays, we had the storms out east. Hopefully everybody's safe. Tornadoes, storms, floods.
Yes.
And then, now it's Thursday. We don't have a preseason week. We don't have any preseason games. It's too weird for me. I don't know what to do.
It's very odd. I don't know. I don't know where we are. We're in limbo, right? Are we at the end of training camp or the beginning of the regular season, or is this purgatory?
It is for the media.
Purgatory.
Medias, they get 20 minutes and they're out. So
yeah. That's kind of more like regular season policy right there. You get to watch them stretch and you're gone.
It's terrible. And Andy Reid, God bless him, he was so great to us till a couple knuckleheads ruined it. But Andy, for a decade, he would let us watch all practice. We cannot write about or talk about anywhere what we saw in practice. So the reporters, the beat reporters, I won't mention who they are, but it bothered me that they did this. They would ask questions. Oh, hey, so they saw it in practice that the guy was moving to left tackle. Hey, so there's a possibility he might play left tackle this week. Well, you can't do that. Why would you do that?
You know why I'm laughing, right? Because I was one of those guys, man.
Schmuck, you're ruining it for me.
Who would have thought asking Omar Gaither if he was going to be the starting strong side linebacker in
Omar Gaither
of a season was really going to make Big Red that mad? Now, I wasn't the one, but it was starting to get a little bit.
There were a couple guys,
Yeah, I mean,
it's tough. Yeah. I know it's tough because you're looking for information. You're looking to ask a question, right, and you already know you want it confirmed. And you got to do, if you don't know the player privately, you got to ask, someone feels like they need to ask.
It was a tricky position, and I will admit also, though, I think Andy was going to eventually do it anyway because the league was trending that way. It was convenient to say that it was our fault, but you will open up practice, you allow us to watch practice, and after 13 weeks of watching the same thing, all of a sudden you notice the second string linebacker is the first string linebacker. Like, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
Not ask him anybody. Like, it just became a weird situation where you felt like you're not doing your job if you don't at least try to ask the question. The guy doesn't have to say. He could literally say, no, I'm just giving the guy a break for a day, and then nobody has a story. So, I mean, it was headed that way anyway.
Yeah, I get it. But I'd suck because it's why I stopped going down to Novacare during the regular season. I'm there for information. Yeah, it's nice to get in the locker room, but I'm not a beat reporter, so I'm not looking, other than building relationships. It's a little different for me, but I love going to practice, man. I just learned so much, and we got such great access under Andy for so many years. I mean, look, I know he was dry, but Sirianni I'm interested to see how he handles. We haven't talked about this much, but look, this is not a playoff team, most likely. I'll be interested to see how he handles it.
I can't wait to see your mentions after this episode drops on social media.
In terms of what? This is not going to be a playoff team?
No, yeah, people are going to kill you for saying that.
I've said it. I don't know how many times. Why would this be any different?
And how much have you checked your mentions lately?
Yeah, I'm trying to put a bunch of information on people cursing at me. I'm like, what is this about? I'm as confused as anyone. But anyway, whatever. I didn't
mean you. I just mean anything that we say that is not overly pro. You're always going to get like a small say. I'm not even ripping fan. I'm just saying you always get a small segment of people who are like, "What do you mean they're not a?"
Yeah, I know. But people our people get it. Look, we're not. We tell the truth. I mean, we give you. We don't always give you what you want to hear. We tell you what we know. Majority of people are going to say, "We get it. We're not happy that you're put out something negative." And a lot of it's positive. This training camp, I mean, other than quite frankly, Fulgham, Hightower, there was not a lot of negative in terms of player performances. But hey, it is what it is. It is
what. And Andre Dillard, you can probably throw in that list, but injuries really hurt.
Yeah, it's true.
Well,
it's true. Yep.
All right, let's get into some of the really important things that have happened over the last 24 to 48 hours. First, as we always tell you right around this time, we want you all to be winners. Adam and I feel like winners because we use Deal Dash. So you should feel like a winner too. So go to dealdash.com or download the app. And when you register, use the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. That's ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids when you're using Deal Dash, either the Deal Dash app or dealdash.com. All right, we have to talk about the Zach Ertz video conference because I don't know. Sometimes I think, like, you know, for fans, for media, whatever, the storylines are like a soap opera, and the plot twists just tend to turn on a dime. And certainly with Zach Ertz, it felt like that as he sits down and he basically says, the past is the past, bygones are bygones. I love the city. I love the team. I love Nick Sirianni's coaching style. I like the players. And, you know, he's just looking for, he basically said he feels like he's in the best shape or he had one of his best camps in 9 years and thinks he's ready to be the same exact tight end, if not better. And it was like, whoa, wait, what? You know, like we're burying the lead here. Like this is, you know, the last time you spoke to the media, you were in tears. You were talking about, you know, how you have no idea what's in store for your future. You had just kind of stayed on the field with Jason Kelsey and Carson Wentz long after a game that was just really ugly from start to finish. And here we are, and it's like singing a completely different tune. I have some thoughts on this, but what was your takeaway from Zach Ertz's video conference?
I was intrigued. I got to tell you, because I know there were some rumors that he was going to talk in training camp. As you know, he never did. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. His comments were fascinating, not quite what I expected. You know, I don't want to speak for Zach, but I thought it was fascinating when he said he wanted to end his career as an Eagle, or whatever however exactly he said it. I just thought that my thing is, I think he came to the realization that the trade did, you know, he recognized the trade was not going to happen. It didn't happen. And he's going to be an Eagle. And I love how he said that he feels kind of, I don't want to say reborn again, but he like he's back. He's got the clear mind. Remember this time last year, let's talk about this. He had the bad contract negotiations. When I say that, it all broke down. It was just not the way that either side thought it would be resolved. It didn't end well. I don't think Zach was very happy. It's not a secret.
Right.
There were reports about here, you know, I think NFL Network put a story out last summer that there's an issue between Zach and the front office, whatever it is. Then Zach suffers a significant ankle injury early in the season. He wound up having surgery after the season. So it was a tough season for him. The staff got fired. Right. And then you add all the positivity, this head coach's energy, Nick Sirianni, new staff. He's healthy. And by the way, I want to mention this, and it's my fault for not mentioning it before. He had a phenomenal training camp. I just think I think we kind of take him for granted because, you know, he's always good. Right. But he looked back to normal. I don't think he was ever right physically last season. I can't remember which week he had the high ankle sprain. Then he went on IR. And then he had surgery. I just think everything's been positive, as Zach said. And he, from a lack of a better term, I think he felt reborn. I think people were expecting him not to be happy when he was talking. I think maybe the expectations were different when maybe the fans thought and the media thought he would say one thing and got another. But I think it was actually surprisingly pretty positive.
Yeah, you know, my takeaway was similar, Adam, in that, first of all, knowing Zach, he has always loved being an Eagle. He has always loved the city. And for those who don't know, his Ertz Family Foundation is doing a lot right now. They're in the early stages of even doing more charity work, especially in the North Philly area. They are dedicated. He, his wife, Julie, his family are dedicated to this city and being very charitable. And I think he's always loved being an Eagle. Oh, yes. So I understand knowing that the situation he's in was pretty much out of his control.
Exactly.
You know, I don't think anything we've talked about in the past that he did want to be somewhere else. He did want to be traded. He was unhappy. None of that is untrue. But the bottom line is he doesn't control it. The Eagles control his situation. And he's under contract with the Eagles right now. So what he's doing is I think, and shows his maturity and how being genuine is. He's just saying it's out of my control. I'm going to make the best of the situation that I'm in. I'm all for that. I think that's great. What I question, and it's really not from Zach's vantage point, is that you and I know that the reason why Zach Ertz was not moved wasn't because the Eagles had some great desperate desire to hang on to him and make him an Eagle for life and things like that. They were not getting the value that they wanted in return for a trade. We know the name has been discussed in trade reports. We know that. So what I wonder now is, and I was on the conference call, I had my little hand raised emoji, but I didn't get a chance to ask the question.
I didn't know that that's what they use. That's awesome.
That's what we use when we want to ask a question. We go to Zoom, you go to the emoticon thing or emoji thing, you get the hand raise. So what I wanted to ask was now, does this mean Zach has specifically told Howie Roseman and the front office to please not trade him? Because of everything he said. I want to be an Eagle for life is what he said, right?
Sure.
And on top of that, have the Eagles told Zach, we will not trade you even if somebody does lose a tight end and gives us the value that we're looking for, a third or second, whatever Howie Roseman wants, right? So I don't understand, because I'm under the impression, and I feel like if the Eagles get an offer that Howie likes, he will make that move. So is that going to be okay with Zach, who just basically told you everything in the past is the past? And he even said, I want to be an Eagle for life, I believe, in that video conference.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
Now I'm not sure what's going on there. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Right. And then when you add to it, Adam, is the part that's not controllable by him at all is, what do the coaches want here? Do they want to be 12 personnel, or are they happy being do they want to be 11 personnel, or are they going to be happy being 12 personnel? There's a whole lot here that's still unanswered.
Exactly. And by the way, the Eagles led in 12 personnel last season, 33.2% of the time. And Richard Rodgers, obviously, when Ertz got hurt, he was playing. And I'm fascinated to see how that works out in terms of, he was actually asked about that, 11 versus 12. Because Zach had a very good training camp, he clearly is all the way back. That's the other point about this. Physically, he's all the way back. Mentally, too. Clearly he was not very happy to start the season, but he's back and he looked great. The hair is funny, it is what it is. It's different, and we were not expecting him to be all blonde like that. But he's healthy. He turns 31 this fall, and maybe he's better than he has been in recent years. Maybe he's, and they don't have a lot of pass targets available. This is the other thing I talked about a couple shows ago. Hurts the Ertz. Someone said that they thought that was pretty funny when I said that. They couldn't tell which I said in my Philly accent. I said it hurts to Ertz. But look, it's Goddard, it's Ertz, it's Rager, it's Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins. If everyone could stay healthy, it's not bad. They've got speed on the outside, they've got youth. But having Zach Ertz is a good thing. But as we've all said for months, coaches never want to be forced to play a certain personnel grouping, and I'm fascinated to see how they're going to work this out.
Right. We used Alshon Jeffrey sort of as an example of someone who was on the team last year. It wasn't supposed to be that way. They couldn't really get rid of him in the offseason because he was hurt, and so he was on the team, and then all of a sudden he comes back, and you're shoehorning him in to a team that's really kind of falling apart and really trying to get some young wide receivers on the field. We saw the adverse effect that it had on Travis Fulgham. We'll get to him in a minute. I don't think this is going to have an adverse effect on Dallas Goedert because he's been kind of in this position before where it's been him and Ertz for a while. And then again, it is a positive. It's not like Zach is in Alshon's kind of echelon right now where he's a really, 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 really fast declining player. In fact, he's looked really good this camp. So I just wonder how all of this is playing out like at the NovaCare and what the coaches are thinking, because you're right to mention that this could be a good thing for the team because they're not very deep right now at wide receiver. So, and Dallas does get nicked up here and there, right? He's been hurt.
Yeah, sure.
But it is also a contract year for that guy, and he wants to prove he can play 16 games or 17 games, I should say. And I kind of went into this year thinking Goddard had a chance to sort of be – look, I don't want people to jump down my throat with this, but but there are a couple of tight ends who are like Kelsey and Waller who get a lot of targets and a lot of catches and yards, not just because they have great athleticism, but because they're not playing, Travis Kelce's playing with Tyreek Hill, and those two guys are going to be target monsters. And then in Vegas, there's really not a whole lot other than Darren Waller.
Great point.
That's what they're
Very
trying.
fair.
So I always thought Goddard might have been kind of that dark horse guy to really get into that 100, 120 type of target, not catch, target terrain. Especially the way that Jalen Hurts had been connecting with the tight ends throughout camp.
Sure.
But now it seems like he's going to be in a contract year, but not given the chance yet to be that number one guy.
I do believe, even with Ertz there, he's going to have the 70. Now, again, this is based on a 17-game season, not 16. It's still too weird for me. It's too weird. You can't have a 500 record. Well, technically, with a tie, 8-1, but it's too weird for me. But look, when you look at this situation here, at tight end, Goddard's going to be the guy at tight end, but that is that 70, is that 65 for Goddard, 50 for Ertz? I don't know. This is not what we were expecting started free agency, when pretty much everyone and their mother thought he would be gone. Jack would be traded at some point, including both sides, but it didn't happen. As you mentioned earlier, Eagles did not get the value they were looking for. More in terms of compensation.
Right.
And Ertz is making $8.5 million. It's as a guy in his 30s now, it's not an easy contract to trade in terms of acquiring it. You got to have cash space. You got to pay the cash. And there's been no indication that Zach was willing to take a pay cut. So here he is, and he's a leader. And I would say it was a minor surprise to me about how positive he was, but I think it's sort of, he's healthy. And as he said in his press conference, before we move on here, we should note, he said you could tell in his face watching it how tough it was for him to deal with that ankle injury, how bad it was. He could never get it right. He didn't look right physically. And now he's healthy. He loves Philly. Man, I always wondered about that, about how much he loved Philly because of the situation years ago when the fans crushed him on Twitter for missing that block. Was it against the Bengals?
Yeah, missing is kindly for opting not to block.
Right. But Zach, I remember Zach, I had asked him this. He said it actually helped him to understand the fan base and just kind of, you can't complain, you can't say anything. Whatever happened many years ago, it made him stronger. And he said he stopped worrying about everything. It actually freed him up in a way once he got over it, which is interesting.
Yeah, it was probably also refreshing for some people on a day. I don't know if this was strategic on Zach's part or coincidental, but literally his video conference and his kind of opening of his heart about being an Eagle and to the fans and the city comes on the same day where most of the talk on the city's airwaves is about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and the criticisms of Sixers fans. And, up in New York, they've had the Mets fans who are the Mets players are booing the fans. And there's been kind of a lot of discussion about fan behavior. Do they deserve it? Fan accountability versus player. And here's Zach saying, no, I want it out, but I'm happy to be back. And I love everybody, and it's all cool. He's like accepting all accountability for everything, even though he didn't do anything wrong, he got hurt.
Yeah,
but it was just a different contrast to the discussion about Ben and Joel and everything else going on. So very interesting stuff.
I thought it was great. I just thought the whole thing was great. You never know with players who've gone through stuff like him that he's been through with the injuries. And they really wanted that contract, and it was a structure issue, as I understand it, in terms of guaranteed money. And it did not look good last season, particularly to start. I was like, wow, this is not, everything you and I had been hearing. I'm like, wow, I don't know, this is not going to end well. And somehow he's here. Look, good. You must. He's kind of embracing it. To move on here, to sum it up, I think he's just said, hey, I'm here, as you said earlier. I thought you said it very well. What are you going to do? You're here, and you might as well accept it and embrace it. There you go.
There you go. There it is. Did you happen to catch the Gardner Minshew comment?
Yes.
About the first time he met Nick Sirianni.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
They were playing a game of – it's amazing how many – if anybody thought Sirianni was BSing about rock, paper, scissors or how he comes up – I mean, now you get a guy who said he's playing a game of horse. I had no idea you weren't allowed to do that with a guy in a pre-draft visit. Isn't there some kind of injury liability?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I've heard that Sirianni's a really competitive tennis player. I'm sure he plays pickleball a lot. I know a lot of coaches play pickleball.
Okay,
But
I have no idea.
Yeah, I've never done it. I've heard it's good. I don't know. It feels like to me it's a giant ping pong table. I don't know what it is. But maybe someday. But yeah, look, Minshew's his interviews in Jacksonville. I watched a bunch of them. Are hilarious. They have one of the smallest media contingents, and he would call one reporter by a different name for some reason. I think a reporter might have called him Greg instead of Gardner. So Minshew would call that guy purposely, the reporter, by a different name on purpose.
Was it Vito, the legend? Vito?
Oh no, I think Vito's gone. I don't.
Okay.
I don't think Vito's still covering the Jaguars. I don't believe.
Oh, I don't know. I just know that he was a legend.
The Stork. Yeah, Vito Stellano. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I just got a kick. I mean, I was trying to visualize, like, you're Gardner Minshew, you fly into Indianapolis, you're probably at their facility, and you're in a classroom with Nick Sirianni, and he's asking you all about all these coverages and what you to do to attack this. And then all of a sudden, I can see Nick saying, "All right, you ready to go play some horse?" How do you break out into a game of horse?
I mean, we've seen Pete Carroll take his shirt off when Metcalf came in. Like, what? Oh, have you seen that video? It's hilarious. Like, so Pete Carroll, he's like, this guy's like, oh no, like 70 years old. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
All right, let's get into this roster. Offense: 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 5 wide receivers, 4 tight ends, 10 offensive linemen, and a partridge and a pair.
I was going to say that. Good job.
Anything surprising there? I guess just the fact that it's 3 running backs. And
yeah, but see, okay, so Jordan Howard, we'll get to the practice squad in a minute, but a couple minutes, but Jordan Howard now is that guy, and we'll explain kind of what their thought process is on what's going on with him. But yeah, I would just say that again, they're not playing a game this week. They have till we'll explain the rules, but they've got till Saturday, the day before the Atlanta game at 4 p.m. Eastern, to sign off the practice squad to add the 4 back, and then his role will be back. I mean, it still was very surprising. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, what the hell are they doing here?
Well, let me ask you about this. I don't know if they could have done this most other years, but this policy started last year where you could activate a practice. Well, first, you can do 2 things. You can sign a veteran to the practice squad. There's no way they would have been able to do this to Jordan Howard 3 years ago.
Correct.
And then you can activate 2 practice squad players to your 53-man or to your active roster on game day. But you have what? You could do that twice, correct? Or is it 3 times that you could do that?
I don't have the exact rule in front of me, but
who's the wide receiver that they were doing this for? Deontay Burnett last year, right? Remember they kept kind of putting him on. He was on the practice squad. Then he would be active on game day. And then we would say, well, at some point you have to make a decision because you can't just do this all year long. I think it's 3 times.
Right. But the normal rule is Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern before a Sunday game, depending if they want to, depending on how they want to use the transaction. But again, if you look at their situation at running back, they're okay for this game. I mean, they're fine as long as nobody's hurt. Sanders, Scott, and Gainwell. It's just a matter of, do they think they need to get Howard off the practice squad?
They have to.
You think? Do you need 4 running backs now?
You need a clue. What if you're winning the game by 2 touchdowns?
That's right. That's why they brought him back, because they needed exactly right. The 2 reasons. Yeah. They need a closer with size, particularly because of Sanders' injury history. Scott is not that guy. He's just not. Mm-hmm. And as we learned last year when he filled in for Sanders, when because Jordan Howard didn't look good last year, and plus Scott was healthy and he had been with the team, and Jordan Howard clearly was not himself last year. Now he's in much better shape. And the other thing is, look, if Sanders gets hurt, we learned they got to have an answer, someone who could eat up carries and is used to doing it. Jordan Howard, did he have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons for the Bears, or one? Was it 1?
I think he had 3. Did he not?
But did he have 3 in a row?
I thought so. I know first 2 seasons definitely, and I thought the 3rd season his 3rd season was a little down. I think he just barely cracked 1,000 yards. Oh no, I'm sorry, 935 yards there in the 3rd season. So you were right; he didn't crack 1,000 on it.
That's pretty good.
Here's the thing: he's also their best blitz pickup and pass protection running back, and I would think you'd want that.
Who would think so? Right?
I mean, look, here's my theory, Adam. That what they're going to do is use him off the practice squad, activate him for game days for the first 3 weeks of the season. Because again, I think it's either 2 or 3. So they're going to do it as many times as they can. And then when he's out of, I guess, options to the practice squad, I would imagine that then they'll sign him to a kind of a non-guaranteed, a week-to-week contract, right? Because he's a vested vet. You sign those guys after week 1, they come back on non-guaranteed contracts. So I imagine they'll just sign him for the rest of the year. If I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit it. This is just no inside reporting.
Sure.
I just can't imagine that he's not going to be part of the team go after the first 2 or 3 weeks of the year. I don't see that.
No, he was the main backup on first to second down in training camp. So I don't know what, it's a very odd situation. There were some odd cuts. Like this happens with every team where you go, wow, I didn't expect that to happen, but he's on the practice squad.
All right. So the 10 offensive linemen we talked about, we thought that they were going to go pretty heavy because Dickerson's going to make it, but we don't know if he's going to be able to play week 1 or week 2. Really interesting talk on Q&A this week about when you put Landon Dickerson in as far as when he's medically and healthy to play. Because theoretically, Adam, like you could maybe make the argument that when healthy, he's better than Isaac Seumalo, or he's expected to be. But if the Eagles are playing well for the first 3 or 4 weeks, and that's a tough schedule, so that would be pretty good, and they're playing well at Seumalo, you don't really have any reason to just yank him out of left guard and put Dickerson in just because Dickerson's ready, per se. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just don't know when he's going to be ready. I mean, it's just because he's on the 53 doesn't mean he's ready. It's that because right, and because they obviously believe he and Rodney McLeod will be ready within the first 6 weeks of the season. Now, I know people will point out the Jeffrey situation, which is certainly fair game. Mm-hmm. That was the strangest thing. The Eagles clearly thought he'd be ready within the first 6 weeks. It backfired on him. This is the thing about teams. They put these designations or take them off for a reason. They have the best information. It just shot it. They blew up on him. I don't know if Jeffrey had setbacks or what. It was the strangest situation last year. Every week was like, okay, when is he coming back? You didn't. Why is he on the active roster? They blew that one, but there had to be a reason for it.
Right. So Brett Toth did make it, as we talked about in the recap. Good for him. This is another Jeff Stoutland slap on the back. Jeff Stoutland, good job. This guy last year was not ready to play in an NFL game. He had to play in an NFL game, and he showed he wasn't ready to play in an NFL game. We joked about if he had to get into the game, the Eagles were in trouble, and he got into the game, and they were in trouble. So his work this offseason to be able to come and play that second-string left tackle with Andre Dillard hurt, and then play left guard in the preseason finale and hold his own there is yet another masterstroke, I guess, by Jeff Stoutland. I mean, I'm not trying to make this guy have to be Jonathan Ogden here, but right. I mean, the fact that he made the team and looked pretty good is a feather in Jeff's cap.
I would say this when you say pretty good. I would just say, from what I understand, he did enough to show that, you know what, he put some decent tape out. They lost him on the waiver claim to the Cardinals, which I think shocked them. They didn't think anyone would have any idea that this guy could do it.
Years ago. Yeah.
Right. And they didn't want to risk putting him on waivers again and losing him because they thought at guard in the preseason, he didn't embarrass himself in that game against the Jets. And guys who have length like him, they're worth developing. And this team with Stoutland as the O-line coach, he just has a history of it. He's really one of the best. Got to give Chip Kelly, by the way, credit. And we don't talk about Chip much, but that was a masterstroke bringing him in 13, right? Was it 13 or 13?
Yeah. It was 13. Yeah. All right, so let's switch to defense now. We've talked about this for a while, and we're going to keep talking about it. Defensive tackle is a position where depth is very, very concerning for the Eagles. Now things can and will change because right now they have 4. They've got your 2 starters, Cox and Hargrave, and then they kept Marlon Tuipulotu, I guess because they drafted him. He did not perform very well this camp. They had to put T.Y. McGill on the COVID list, right? So he's out for a little bit here. We'll see. And they released Hassan Ridgeway. And so that leaves them with Tuipulotu and Milton Williams. And Milton Williams is a little bit of an undersized. He's not a run style. He's a pass rushing tackle. Right. So as we saw in the preseason, they've struggled to stop the run. And now if Cox or Hargrave are hurt, you kind of wonder what's going on. I feel like this is a position that is going to there's going to be some kind of cosmetic surgery going on here, but in the next few days, I would imagine, or leading up to the opener.
Yeah, I just don't know how they could do this. Now, we'll see if McGill, as you said, comes off the COVID list for the game. That would help because he knows the defense. He's been with them. He did enough to I know the word that we got was he was a flash player, which means he'll get a sack, but they would need more consistency out of him. That's fine, but he's been around the league a long time. He's been on off the Eagles roster. They know him. He knows them. They need someone with experience. I'm really, this is yet another surprise. Ridgeway, we had heard that he didn't do as well as we thought he did, and that's why they cut him.
Right.
And he was one of the guys not to get a job on Wednesday. No, another team did not sign or have him with an agreement, so they could bring him back. He knows the defense. You nailed it. I just have a hard time believing they're going to go into the first week at Atlanta without a veteran backup. That's a little shaky there.
I agree with you. So we'll see. We'll obviously have that updated as it goes along. Yeah. They've got some time here. Do they still have at the time we're recording this? I think that there's still one spot open on the practice squad.
Yeah. So Wednesday night I put a scoop out. Keyshawn Johnson, the former Cardinal 6th-round pick. Yeah. It was 2019. He agreed to a deal. Remember, Matt Leo does not count against the roster, so they had actually had 3 spots open. They signed 15, but Matt Leo doesn't count, so that's 14. You add this kid Johnson's 15, so they'd have 2 spots.
Right. It wouldn't surprise me maybe if they brought in a veteran to the 53, then released Tui Pelotu, right, and then waived Tui Pelotu, and then brought him back to the practice squad. Now you say, well, aren't you worried about losing him? Well, now teams do this all the time. They wait a day or 2 later to do that kind of move because they know that all the teams have made their first waiver claims. Many of the teams have already signed their practice squad players. So now you have to take Marlon Tuipulotu if you want to claim him off waivers and put him on your 53, right? After not doing so well in the preseason in the first place, after only being a 5th-round pick and having a little bit of an injury history there as well. So it's a little bit of a roll of the dice. I know they like him and expected more from him, but I'm not sitting here. I wouldn't be worried about losing him on the waiver wire 3 days later.
They only have 1 spot open because they did sign 15, right? Is that correct?
To the practice squad?
Yeah. Is it 15?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15. One of them doesn't count because it's Leo, so that's 14. But then Keyshawn Johnson becomes 15.
So they have 1 spot. I stand corrected. Yeah, I'm like, what? My addition's terrible.
There you go.
I hated algebra.
Anyway. But I mean, it's not like any of these guys in the practice squad can't get cut either.
So I know. That's
if they sign someone between now and then and still put Tui Pelotu on later.
This is incredible. Speaking of that, none of their players that they waived were claimed on Wednesday, right? Right. And they didn't get any players awarded. I'd have to look this up. I don't know if that's ever happened in Eagles history. This is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I mean, Howie Rosen must be thinking, last year I released this Noah Togiai tight end who I don't know how anybody would have known about him because there was no
Togiai mentioned. Drink up.
And he gets claimed. And then this year, I release a guy who led the NFL in receiving for 4 weeks, and he doesn't get claimed. That's just unbelievable. That's just, you can't predict anything about the NFL.
Yeah, I know.
All right, linebackers, 7 linebackers. We talked about that. Oh, well, let me go right back to defensive end real quick because they kept Teron Jackson, which is good. I have a theory. I haven't dug into it, but look, he was a 6th-round pick. He did play well. He's a pass rusher, so you always do worry about losing those guys. But he played really well against the Jets, Adam. And the Jets were ahead of the Eagles in the waiver order. And the Jets have lost 1 pass rusher after another. And they just sat there and got great film and tape and watched up front as Teron Jackson played pretty well. I can understand if they felt a little nervous and sheepish about cutting him and just losing him to the Jets.
Yeah, and another point is Kerrigan 1-year deal. Derek Barnett, final year of his deal, is on the 5th-year option. Josh Sweat on the final year of his deal. Brandon Graham's not a lock to return. Absolutely, it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, you want him in the program and learning and developing.
And you know what? I don't know that he'll dress it all, but there's nothing wrong with keeping a guy you really like for the future. It's not about him this year for him. It's about the future. he could figure in prominently next year. So you know what? Smart move.
Yep, absolutely. All right, linebackers. We knew Taylor was going to make it, even though he's still not practicing. So I always thought, however many linebackers they'd keep, you add one. So I thought they were going to keep like 5, and then you would add 1,
exactly.
6.
Right.
They kept 7. So that they really kept 6 healthy linebackers, and then Davion Taylor. So we know they got the 2 Sam guys, Jannard Avery and Patrick Johnson.
Sure.
Don't you kind of feel like this thing might change a little bit as you get toward week 1?
Oh, yeah. 7. How do you 7? I mean, it's one thing if they ran a 34 front, but they don't.
Right.
I was surprised. Just a note here for the players who are in camp that were not only were not on the Eagles practice squad, but did not have jobs as of Thursday morning were Elijah Holyfield, Andre Patton, this is offensively, Markin Michelle, Hakeem Butler, Richard Rodgers, Carrie Angeline, Harry Kreider, Luke Juriga, Casey Tucker. Defensively, Ridgeway, as you mentioned, Jaquan Bailey, Rashad Smith, Kevon Seymour, Lavert Hill, and Andrew Adams, who I did not have them cutting. So that was a minor surprise.
That was a minor surprise. All right, so that's basically we talked about the 5 corners. You were right about that, by the way, that Craig James was probably not going to make it.
Yep.
Obviously, his injury history, but they did bring him back to the practice squad. And all right, I want to talk about the safety picture, but I want to spend a couple of minutes on it. So let me get to this first. All right. The NFL is back. I mentioned at the start of the show. We're excited. The NFL is back like Inside the Birds is back. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving all new players a can't-miss offer for week 1. Bet just $1 on any NFL game during the first week of the season and receive $200 in free bets instantly, no matter what. So just take advantage of this limited offer now. That's right. You heard it correctly. DraftKings is giving all new players $200 in free bets instantly when you make a bet of $1 or more on any week 1 game. So head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Check out all the great promotions and daily odds boosts. Plus, you can make every game a big game with same-game parlays. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any week 1 game. That's promo code ITB to get your free $200 in free bets instantly for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Now, you must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers apply. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. So the safety picture, Adam, was surprising to me because we knew Rodney McLeod had not practiced all camp. We know Kevon Wallace has been banged up for the second half of camp, so you thought they might go heavy there. Yeah. And instead, those 2 guys make it. Anthony Harris makes it, and then the last safety to make it was Marcus Epps. So that's and wasn't he a little bit banged up at one point?
I'm not sure.
Camp? Maybe he wasn't.
Two of their safeties, Wallace has had, they suffered the injury first with the groin, then he re-injured it. And McLeod's come off ACL reconstruction. He hasn't practiced since last season. I mean, I can't imagine he's going to be ready week 1. Obviously, can't roll it out. He's on the active roster. I'll be very interested to see how they list him on Wednesday's first injury report. It's 4 p.m. Eastern. It comes out around there. Fascinating to see how they list him. And also Landon Dickerson. If you're on the active roster, unless he's practicing fully, they would have to list him. So very interested to see how they list him on the injury report.
Yeah, and I think it should be noted that they bring back both Elijah Riley and Graylin Arnold to the practice squad. And if you're
both guys. Yep.
Yeah, so to me, Riley Riley would be a prime candidate to be active for week 1, maybe even week 2 off the practice squad because he's a great special teams player. Could be a backup safety there, give you numbers there, and he can also play a little bit of corner as well. So I think it's pretty intentional that both of the safeties that they cut were scooped right back on to the practice squad, and it wouldn't surprise me if at least 1, maybe 2 were active at least week 1 against the Falcons. Yeah,
depending on the health of the 2 guys we mentioned. So the practice squad, we mentioned Jordan Howard and kind of where he's at. They'll have to next weekend to make a decision on whether they're going to activate him for the game. Fulgham and Hightower, obviously, are on the practice squad. They're the only 2 receivers. Pershbacher, the kid who could play center and guard. I think he's more of a center. Awoshika, who's a guard who could play right tackle. Suapeta's back for another run. Raven Clark. He had guaranteed money that's got offset. So as an agent, not his agent, but I was talking to another agent who went through something similar. His veteran, decided to go back to the same team. He's like, why would our guy want to sign somewhere else play for free? Because he can't make any more than he was based on the guarantee.
Right.
So he's like, we'll just go back. Defensively, Raekwon Williams, Matt Leo, Jacoby Stevens.
Real quick before we get to, because I wanted to point out a few things on that. I mean, what a benefit it is to be able to keep 10 offensive linemen and still get LaRaven Clark. Yep. I mean, basically, Brett Toth pushed LaRaven Clark out of the 53, but LaRaven Clark, bam, right there. And Sua Opeta, who, got a chance to play last year. I thought of all the people they cut, Fulgham and Opeta, I thought would be the ones that you might lose to another team. Only because it's such an offensive line deficient league. I'm not trying to say Sua Opeta played well when he was in his games. He did not, but it's an offensive line deficient league, and the Eagles are known for having a good one. So I thought Opeta might get scooped up. And I want to ask you about the Fulgham and Hightower thing.
Okay.
Let's say they were only going to bring one of those guys back. Which one do you think that they would have prioritized?
Who's got better teams value? It
would have been Hightower, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because that's really, to be honest with you, that's, you say Ty goes to the runner. It's like, okay, how do you separate the two? We know Fulgham's more talented, but we analyzed it 2 shows ago. You could see our Instagram. It took my quote, why I thought he wouldn't be on the team, based on the issues that he's had and sulking and not handling everything, the disappointment well. But he's super gifted. But he just cannot get out of his own way. With Hightower, he had the injury in training camp. He's been so up and down. He had a very good training camp last year, and I think you'd mentioned a couple times he's got a very high football IQ. But he's another guy. The trust level with the coaches last year wasn't very high.
Right.
You just don't know what you're getting from him.
Nope. But I do think it's funny that if you look at it, they kept 5. So Fulgham and Hightower are receivers number 6 and 7, but really it's Hightower 6, Fulgham 7. I mean, what a fall.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
What a fall from grace. I mean, literally, he went into camp, Travis Fulgham, with the potential to be the second best receiver, to be your starting outside receiver next to Devontae Smith, maybe get Rager in the slot or mix and match, whatever you want to call it. And he's the 7th now. And that just shows you the NFL life, man. You can be on top of the world 1 minute and begging for a job the next.
I'm trying to think.
Just hanging on.
Yep, I'm trying to think of a player. Last 15. Player. What's that?
Like a flash player who
who just it doesn't matter offense or defense with the Eagles. I'm just trying to think who just I mentioned Hank Baskett before, but Hank Baskett would wind up. What did he made the team that year, didn't he?
I mean, Hank Baskett is a success story for being an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
He had like 4 or 5 touchdowns that year. He had like a couple 100 yards.
But he was unbelievable. Best training camp of
he was a training camp darling.
Of any projected starter. It was big play after big play. His hype was ridiculous.
Right. I think for me, like if you want to talk about flash players, of Fulgham were just great, and then would be Bryce Brown, the running back, who had the 2 back-to-back. He had like 389 rushing yards in 2 games, 2 starts back in the last days of the Andy Reid era.
Did he frustrate their coaches because he would try to break everything outside?
Some of those Broncos running backs in the late Shanahan days, right? They would just become a product of the great zone blocking.
Mike Anderson.
Anderson. Yeah. Who's the really short running back they had from Oklahoma one year? Oh, I want to say Quentin Griffin. Now you're killing me. I thought it's not Quentin Griffin or something like that.
It's
from Oklahoma. I remember that.
Well, no, I know. See, you're killing me with it. Now I'm gonna have to look. Go ahead, man.
Who is it? We gotta figure it out.
I know. I know the guy. It's Gray. It's Oh damn.
I think I'm thinking of Quentin Griffin. He was like a 5'7" running back. Yeah, he went to That's what I was thinking of. All right.
Keep going.
I can't think. There was. Oh wait, there's the guy who then went to the Giants. Reuben Drowns.
Ruben
right? He had like
Drones,
four
right.
drones. He had like
I got
five
it.
games.
Landis Gary. That was it.
Landis Gary is another one too. Yeah. So there was Quentin Griffin, Landis Gary, Mike Anderson, Ruben Drones.
Griffin,
I mean, those guys just.
I'm looking at all the Shanahan backs for Denver. Here you go. It's the great Terrell Davis is in the Hall of Fame. I still don't.
He played from 2003 to 2005.
I just don't.
You don't remember him?
Who?
Quentin Griffin?
No.
5 foot. He was 5'7".
Did he do? I'm looking him as one of the top 20. I'm not seeing. I see the great Mike Anderson, who came out of nowhere, as you said.
Yes.
Ruben Drones. Oh, do you want to hear a crazy story of Ruben Drones?
I think I've heard it, but go ahead.
This is when I reported it, and he wasn't told that he was getting traded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not my fault. I put it out, and they had not told him he's being traded, and I felt bad about it, but it wasn't my fault. That was weird. He was with I think it was the Browns Giants or something, but yeah,
right here, Quentin Griffin, right? Just real quick. He had 2 games in his career, and this is in 2003, December 21st, against the Colts. He had 28 rushes for 136 yards, a 24-yard catch also. He averaged 4.86. And then on September 12th of the following year against the Chiefs, he had 156 yards on 23 carries for a 6.8 average per carry and 2 touchdowns. All right.
See, the guy, but
what a flash player right there.
Right, flash, yes, but I'm talking about the guys the Landis Garys, the guys who did it for a season or two.
Yeah.
Like Mike Anderson, and they brought in guy played for the Niners too. I could see the guy name in front of me. Oh man, it's gonna kill me. Guy went up. It's as you nailed it. It's the Shanahan. Kevin Stefanski calls it the wide zone. It's the zone stretch. Yep. Same thing.
Yep.
But anyway,
made Alfred Morris actually look like a really good running back for a couple of years in Washington.
Florida Atlantic 6th rounder. Yes, I was there when he got picked for the Senior Bowl. Yeah, it's crazy. That one, and whatever year that was when he got picked, Alfred Morris, who just got cut recently,
made Raheem Mostert look like the most dynamic player in the league 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl.
He's explosive, though. He's explosive.
He is, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you put him in Jason Garrett's offense, he's just he's not going to be doing that, right?
You're right. You're absolutely right. Is there a passing game system that makes guys better than they are?
I think everybody runs it. It's called the West Coast offense.
Oh, right, but
makes the slot receiver really good. No, that's a good question. I don't know.
Anyway,
yeah. Well, maybe the Earnhardt
Eric Coryell.
Eric Coryell. I don't know. Some of those guys are really good receivers, though. They go other
Chargers.
places. They're good receivers. Yeah.
John Jefferson's probably a little bit before your time, but Wes Chandler.
Yeah.
Was a great player.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on.
Yep.
Let's actually pause to tell everybody about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of Philadelphia sports teams. They are for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com. Find them on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. And we'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you happen to go into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. If not, head to skymotorcars.com. All right, so we were going through the practice squad. We're going to focus now on the defense. Is that where I left off? Yeah, the defensive players. Raekwon Williams, Matt Leo gets the internet. Do you think they like Matt Leo? I mean, this is the second time this year, or second time he's going to. I know he's huge,
big dude, and he could be a look player for their practice squad, because he's long. He could wear, like, if there's a tall DN or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, I've watched him at camp, and he didn't look like an NFL player in terms of being ready to go, but he reminds me a little bit of a guy just got cut. Marcus Hunt. Okay, he was he was born overseas, might have been Germany.
Yes.
When I first watched him in training camp with the Bengals several years ago, he didn't look like he was ready, but he's good at blocking kicks for field goals, and extra points. Right. But he developed as a rotational interior player, not a great pass rusher, but an NFL player, like a third or fourth D tackle. Started some, so you never know. It's worth a shot. And as you just said, they brought him back again, so maybe they're seeing something.
Marcus Hunt from Estonia, by the way.
Yeah, they're good call. Yep.
I wonder if Matt Leo, I just wonder this is like really looking down the road. If he doesn't make it, eventually, if they don't think he can be an NFL D end, I wonder if they think maybe he can be an offensive tackle. I mean, 6'7". If you put a
Yeah.
little weight on him, I mean, this is basically what the Steelers did to Alejandro Villanueva, where after Chip got rid of him, so as a D end. So I wonder if they're kind of learning on that and if it's going through their mind at all.
Did Villanueva, was he a D lineman here?
Yeah, he was a 3-4 D end.
Okay, he's tall, right? He's playing right tackle, for the Ravens. But we'll see. I mean, that's interesting. And look, they've hit a home run to this point with a rugby player, so we'll see.
Good to see Jacoby Stevens back. Craig James, as we mentioned, Michael Jacquet is back. He listen, you nailed it. The guy needs work. He's got good size. He's got good physical capabilities. Got a lot of reps in training camp and in the preseason. He just needs to develop.
Yeah, look, Denard Wilson, I know the Eagles are very high on him as a coach. We'll see if he can develop him. He'll have the good thing about him being on the practice squad. There's no rush. I know he's with them in training camp. Craig James, when he's healthy, obviously would be the first guy to come up because he's had meaningful snaps. Jacquet needs to stay on the practice squad. He's raw. He needs a lot of development. He's a former receiver, but you can't cheat length. He's a pretty good kid, from what I understand. He's a hard worker. Just let him develop. Don't rush him.
Right. And then we mentioned Elijah Riley and Graylin Arnold as safeties. So not re-signed were Hassan Ridgeway, Jaquan Bailey, Rashad Smith, Kevon Seymour, Lavert Hill, and Andrew Adams. I wonder what becomes of Ridgeway. I mean, we just talked about their defensive tackle situation. Yeah. He's still out there as of us recording this. Didn't get picked up by anybody. Wonder if he could come back. Vested vet, right? Come back after week 1 or week 2. What is it after week 1, right? All you have to do is play the first game?
Monday after week 1. Yeah, it'll be. This is just me. When I looked at him, he looked heavy in training camp. I have no idea if that had anything to do with it, but I don't even know what weight he was. But you just as a reporter goes to, you observe stuff. Like we observed Derek Barnett last year, who was small. Boy, was he small!
Right.
But Ridgeway's a good player. Like they've always liked him, and he knows the defense. Would not shock me at all, as you said earlier. Absolutely, they need a veteran defense. Because think about it, right? Let's say Cox and Harvard, something happens in the game against Atlanta, and maybe they have cramps. They're out for some snaps. Is Tui Pelotu or Milton Williams really ready to play 15 straight snaps if they need it in a game? That's a tough call, man.
Can't imagine it. Can't imagine. They really have to do something with that spot before they head into week 1. So I would have Hassan Ridgeway on my radar to see what happens there. By the way, if they had wanted to waive T.Y. McGill,
he's vested. I think he's vested.
I'm sorry, you're right. If they had wanted to cut or release T.Y. McGill, could they have done that with him having tested positive, or would that have to be a waived injured or waived?
No. What happens is you take once he's you can't cut him over the COVID list. What you can do is, because I saw this a bunch, once he comes off it, then you cut him. Once he's healthy enough, you cut him.
So is it possible the only reason he has made it over Ridgeway possible is that he's on the COVID list and they couldn't?
Well, he's not on the roster now. He's on the reserve list. He's not part of the 53.
Right.
Yeah, it's on reserve.
Oh, so when they want, so they have to make a move, of course.
Correct. When he comes off the
list,
he's either on the active, which means they have to cut somebody to make room, or they cut him.
Okay, so that would make sense if when he comes off the list, if Tui Pelotu is the guy that goes through waivers, then goes to the practice squad.
Oh, linebacker, Sean Bradley to me.
Or one of the linebackers, yeah.
7 linebackers, really?
7 linebackers, man. That is
crazy. I'm sorry. Duh. Tyree Jackson, he's not going on IR as of Thursday morning. So,
interesting.
This is not the first time. Remember, it was like last year or the year before, people are going out of their mind. Why did they put this guy on IR yet? Because what they don't like to do is teams like to do it at the same time. Okay, they put this guy on here. The corresponding move is this. They put this guy on IR, and here's what they're doing. They
haven't signed anybody, so there's no need to open up the roster.
Correct.
It could very well be that McGill comes off, and then they want to put him on.
Yeah, right. So I get it. I understand why people ask. Because I always have the same why aren't they doing this? But it's sort of like they do it. The teams typically do it at the same time.
All right, excellent. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. We'll be back Monday morning with our next podcast, 6 a.m. and that will still not be week 1.
So weird,
right?
man. I just can't.
But we'll have a lot more.
Weird.
I guess on any more roster changes. We'll look ahead a little bit to Atlanta.
We'll
start to get into in-season mode, even though we will not technically
I just punched
in
myself.
season yet. Oh, you punched yourself? Look at that.
I was like, fist pump because I'm so sick and tired of the. I'll be honest with you. I'm looking forward to Labor Day weekend. Just to decompress a little bit and gather my thoughts for week 1 around the NFL and all that stuff.
Definitely.
I'm doing the Twitch, by the way, Monday through Thursday. If you haven't joined it, a lot of Eagle fans are in there. It's pretty cool. I got to figure out how to get sound. I got to get sound on because I want to hear people's voices. I want to have a conversation. I want to see people. I got to figure that out. I got to talk to people from Twitch.
Right.
But
the cool thing is when we're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Soon, call in.
Good call. We'll be able to get to talk to callers.
I want to hear from folks, man. I want to hear your voices. Part of this COVID issue is, which sucks, is we can't get in front of people, and we're hoping with an announcement we've got coming, or 2 announcements, that we'll be able to do that. Because when we had our show last fall in that beautiful, what was the bar called? Beautiful location.
The Goose Island Brewery or brew house, right?
Awesome, right? It was so, and the love in the background, the sign of love. You could have not asked for better background. It's beautiful, and
it was awesome.
Broke our heart, but anyway, it is what it is.
No doubt. All right, like I said, that'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. You can check out his work on YouTube. It's called Sports Talk with Broads, and his website, broadsmedia.com. Follow him on Twitter @Broads81. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.